Maybe also while people type, we can start with panelists each introducing themselves with 5 minutes. Awesome. We can go through alphabetical order of the first name. So Andreas.
Okay. Yes. Hello, my name is Andreas Vlachos. I'm at the University of Cambridge in the UK. I come from Greece, but I've been away for about 20 years now. Yeah, I said in the chat, I have never done an internship, which something I actually regret not having done as a student. I was given the opportunity to do a part-time position at Facebook for a couple of years, which kind of makes up for it a bit. Not the same, I'm sure, but so that's my experience. And yeah, and you know, I think yeah, very happy to answer questions. Also, I have a question for people to think about and maybe want to ask questions in return. Is also, what do you want out of an internship? That's something that I ask my students when they tell me they want to go for an internship and where, and ask them what they are looking for. So yeah, that's. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Andreas. I selected the question, I put it so we can also talk about this. It's a really important question. Then Sarah, you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Ibrahimi. I'm a PhD student in my last year at the University of Amsterdam, mostly working on multimodal learning. I did 3 internships during my PhD. The first one was at Naver Labs Europe, which is in the south of France. That was mostly computer vision oriented. Then I did an internship at Amazon Prime Video, which was last year in Seattle. And I met Oana there because she was also an intern there. And I'm currently actually doing another internship at Amazon with the Just Walk Out team, which is on the East Coast in DC. Just Walk Out is from the Amazon Go stores, basically where you just walk out of the store without paying. For all the 3 internships, they were very research oriented, not related to the product that the team was working on. So we were most of the time aiming for like an academic paper as an outcome. So, yeah.
Great, thank you so much, Sarah. Yeah, it's they're really good memories from last year at Amazon. Yeah, in Seattle, a lot of hiking. It was a great experience, yeah, and research for sure. Okay, and Izzy, do you want to go next?
Hey guys. Hey.
Hello.
Hey Anna. First of all, I hate going through alphabetically because I'm always the last. I always advocate a balanced approach. So if you do alphabetically, you should do reverse alphabetically sometime as well. So you guys are NLP researchers, you know how to balance the data. I'm YZ. I'm with Arizona State University here. I'm an associate professor. I do research in the I would say I wouldn't technically define myself as an NLP researcher. I think I do quite a lot of vision and language stuff, starting from image captioning, tracing back to 2011. Regarding internship, well, I also posted online. I don't know why I'm selected on this panel because, like Andreas, during my student time, I didn't do any internship. At that time, I was part-time working on a startup called Robot Training Academy. At that time, we're trying to train robots learning from large corpus of videos. And starting off my own lab right now, I'm also involved in another startup called Argos Vision, which is doing intelligent transportation using vision language. So I think most of the knowledge I have with respect to internship is mostly what my students were telling me, right? So we have students interning almost every summer to Amazon, Meta, Adobe, Microsoft, even national labs, Lawrence Livermore, well, name it. There are also small companies. My startup also hire internships as well. So when you mention internship, it's really a big concept. There's just all kinds of different opportunities and job prospect and expectations as well, right? So I think we can all discuss about that later. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you for the input. I think we have an interesting mix of people with more like junior and we're the interns. And then we also have senior professor roles who see their students doing internship. We could also broaden the scope of today's discussion also to comparison of industry, academia, or how to find students find the thing that they really like and fits them well. Great. With this, I'll pass it back to Oana.
Okay. Thank you so much, Zhijing. We have more questions in the Slido link, and I also mentioned you can vote your favorite questions because we're going to start with reading the questions that are the most voted. Yeah, so again, the Slido link is in the chat. Please ask questions there and vote. Okay, so yeah, I can see a bunch of questions already. Let's see, the most voted one for now is, yeah, that's a good, interesting question. Yeah, so big company internships are too competitive, but small company ones are less recognized. What should I aim at? Maybe we can start again, reverse alphabetical as IZ suggested.
Well, I think this question, a great question. I think the answer is simple. You should aim both. Why select, right? So as a student, you should keep your options open. That's always my opinion. Big companies, of course, they have more options to choose from. They have more applicants. But you never know. I mean, maybe a group really fits the interest, really fits your background, and your background fits a specific group's background. And on the other side, like many big companies, they are also operating as a group of small staffs, right? Every single group has its own perspective and need of talents. So, in my view, you should of course target both.
Yes, I agree. I also feel like whenever I can apply, I apply broadly, and then it's good to have as many interviews as you can to get more experience with that. And then depending on the team or what matches with your background, then you can select. So yeah, I agree. You could apply to both types.
I guess maybe if there is this question, like I think similar to PhD applications we mentioned before. So this question holds either when there's a zero-sum game of your resources, time-wise or effort-wise, then how to distribute the 100% of your resources. It could also be interpreted perhaps as how to increase your chance at both places or make the best out of small company internships. Yeah, just providing some possible angles to enrich the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I may intervene here. Yeah, I think these extra angles that Zhijing offers are good, right? Because I think you should not apply for internships that you're not interested in doing just for the sake of having an offer, right? That's clarify. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't apply for PhD positions that you're not interested in, jobs that you are not really, you wouldn't actually do even if you were offered the job, say, whatever that means. So, and then I think, I think the point of the question, and of course, it's anonymous, which is fine, but I'll pick the word less recognized. I think that really depends on what you do. There are smaller, say, labs or smaller companies that have very well recognized labs on certain topics. If actually you get an internship and you work on a topic that some of the best experts in the field are in that not so big company, well, I think you will have, you will be as good as any, right? I mean, I think so I wouldn't worry so much about the prestige of the company itself. Is a bit like selecting PhD supervisors, right? The advice you'll probably get is that don't worry, the main thing is the supervisor, not whether the supervisor is like university X, Y, or Z, right? It's really about the supervisor that matters. That's what the person you're working with. And so a similar thing goes to the companies. There are very good people distributed in many companies. Sure, there's some clusters, say, or some concentrations at a certain point in time, but generally they're dispersed. So finding the right person to work with would be, in my mind, is much more important than the size of the company.
Yeah, I agree with what mostly have been said. I would like to add that out of my experience, I also struggled with this in the beginning because these big companies are everywhere, and I've really felt the need to apply there. But at the same time, in the beginning of my PhD, I was struggling because I thought I needed to have the first paper out first before I could apply to internships, and I wasn't in that position. So I thought, who would look at my profile if I don't have my first big paper at a top tier conference with me as a first author? So that made me also look at smaller companies, and yeah, so I did my first internship at Naver Labs Europe, which is smaller in size, but they do great research. And it was a great environment for that, for me in that situation, actually, because they also had master students as interns who also did research, actually. It was way less competitive, but the supervision there was great, and I could get my first or a paper out as a first author because the environment was encouraging that. And that's something that you also don't always get at a big company. So that's, yeah, it's not that at a big company, at a big lab, it's a guarantee that you will end up in a team that actually gives you that environment. So yeah, I think another message I want to give, like for other people who are in this position who currently don't have their first paper out, with them being the first author at the top tier conference, still apply for internships, because you might keep postponing this decision if your first paper doesn't come out. While actually your internship can help you in this way with getting a paper and even help you develop skills that you will not get at the university, or at the environment where you might be in at the moment. Yeah, so definitely apply no matter what.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. I really identify with that, because my first paper, my undergrad thesis, was actually that in Romania at Bosch, and I did not realize at that time while I was working on the paper that it's actually going to help me a lot to get the PhD program. I wasn't even thinking about PhD programs at the time. It was just to finish my undergrad thesis. But yeah, it was a really supportive environment, and I learned a lot. And it's a much smaller company than what you find in US. Okay.
Yeah, if I may add on, I think I fully echo Sarah's point, right? Especially both of you guys are talking about publication, right? So I think important thing for students to really look into is whether the group and the research is aiming for open publication, right? So this is critical for PhD students to do internship. If you join a startup company as mainly focusing on product, I doubt how much you can essentially benefit from that internship in principle.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, we can move on to the second question, the most voted one, the second most voted. This is a bit different topic. Oh, okay, they immediately changed. But I'm gonna read this one still. They're competing with each other, okay. So how do I navigate working with people I don't know and who don't have bandwidth to respond to my emails? My advisor doesn't have any contacts. Who want to respond first to this one?
I'm happy to say that. I mean, I don't know what you can do really. I don't think I have a very good piece of advice, but it might be an indication of essentially someone not interested in taking interns for whatever reason, right? There's a lot of things that have happened inside companies. People change jobs or reorganizations of a company, so which they might not want to respond, but then even they don't want to actually say something along those lines, like they might not respond to anything. So I mean, there's like, you know, you're probably going to try to find people that you well, that actually are responding to you and you want to work with them, right? I think there's no, yeah, and they exist, that I'm sure, but it often takes longer to find out, right? But I know it's disappointing, you know. I still, you know, one of my favorite stories, like, is that back when my email address, my own email address, actually I had to my university for my undergraduate and my yahoo.com, which I won't tell you, but it's it is the title of my favorite rock song of the time. So, you know, and really a professor at an American university replied to me, being in Greece, asking for a paper. And I remember this and I was like, wow, who bothers writing, you know? I don't think my email would have made it through spam filters today. Back then it made it through the spam filter somehow. So, you know, like sometimes, you know, but I can tell you that this professor responded to me, which was very nice of him, and I still cherish that moment. But at the same time, you know, at the time he hadn't responded to me, I would have been very annoyed. But now I realize that often there's so many reasons why your email might not make it, or might, you know, it might not be responded to. So try. It's not easy, but try not to take it personal, because it's your email that is not being responded to, right? Of course, that will hurt. Of course, you spend time and effort thinking how to craft the email to get the response, all of that. But try not to take it too personally and move on. Like, you know, move to the next email, move to the next person. Of course, if you have the opportunity to go to a conference, and I'm saying if, because I know that's a luxury for a lot of us, for various reasons, be it financially, visa, family, or any of this. Often these things work better in person, but, you know, but I understand this is a luxury that not everybody can afford. So, but for completeness, really, yeah. And actually, I want to link it to the point in the chat about people in industry not being as public about it. That, yeah, you know, sometimes, you know, that those, in my experience, those who want to take interns, they try to remain visible in academia, in academic circles, so they can attract the interns. Those who choose to kind of like not do it, maybe they're not as interested in taking interns, so that you can take that as an indication of interest, of level of interest. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, someone in the chat also, Ali Raza, he said it's also helpful to schedule email for early mornings. People tend to respond then. Yeah, it's good to be strategic a bit, but again, a very good advice to not take it personally, even though it's hard. But try to.
Oh, I actually have also a very practical suggestion for students. Try to keep your email short. That's important. All right. No one would like to read lengthy emails, especially if your email is apparently reading like being polished and strengthened by ChatGPT. That wouldn't fare well. I was recently getting all the emails are really lengthy and apparently some kind of improvement by large language models. I totally understand students would like to show, you know, the most fabulous aspect of yourself through email, but I think like in any kind of correspondence, people are reading too many texts already. So try to keep your email short.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. Also, speaking of keeping email short, we got a lot of questions. So maybe we could try to keep we have like 14 or maybe a bit more questions. So we're trying to get through all of them. So maybe we could aim for short answers from now on. Thank you. Yeah, it's great to have a lot of questions, a lot of engagement. Okay, so third question would be some tips on building up a good profile for the internship that helps us stand out. Maybe Sarah, you can give some ideas from your experience.
I remember I was also wondering about this because I faced, I think, the same situation as was just described, that I contacted many people and many didn't reply. So I thought maybe it's my profile. But then I think things just started to come naturally at some point. Like the first internship, because it wasn't such a popular company where hundreds of people were applying for the same position. And I got a good paper out. It showed basically that I could do research at the company. And then I presented that work at the conference. And then at the conference, I met Amazon Prime Video. And then we scheduled interviews after that. And it was not because I did something that stood out that there was a match. I was just presenting my previous work that was, yeah, to some relevance for that team. And then after I did that first internship, the second one, or the third one, so the second one at Amazon actually came also more easily. So yeah, you can do things to stand out, like present yourself in a blog post or all these things, but I'm not sure if that's something I can give good advice on. I would say for me, it personally really helped to search for internships that were related to the work I was doing in my PhD, and then build on that line of research. So for every other internship that I got, I also tried to keep it somewhat in the same direction. So I could say, hey, this is what I previously did. This would also help or be interesting for your team. And then instead of doing all different kinds of projects. But that's also personal choice. I know other people who like to do internship because they want to do something different than they're doing at the university. So yeah, I'm not sure this probably doesn't answer the question, but these are just my thoughts.
Yeah, thank you so much. Also, yeah, Zhijing is really nice. She's posting in the chat answers to the other questions, like in case we don't have enough time to answer to all of them. So these are the reverse order questions. Okay, next question I could go, yeah, is this one. Are there already an inflation of too many CS students and those on AI? I worry that in the long term, there wouldn't be this many jobs available. Yeah, that's a good question.
I think we got a similar question during last year's mentorship for academia as well, right? So I guess it's a common question. I still recall my answer to students is never timing the market. You never know, right? So the whole point is, well, I mean, nothing we can predict at this point of time, in my view. You never know, but the general trends is still very positive. The growing number of needs of AI domain experts, trained students, PhDs. Just look at the US academic job market. Our school has 13 openings. I was talking to many other universities. They are typically having 16, 20, 5, 6, over US computer science and AI machine learning related professor jobs are, I can easily over 200 to 300 right now. So the market is pretty good. That's what we can say, right?
Yes, definitely. Actually, mentioning professor jobs, I'm applying right now, so I can see there are a lot of applications, a lot of available posts for professor and CS. So that's a good sign, especially when you compare it to other areas where there are only 10 or like less than that. So yeah. Okay, thank you so much. Another question is it already too late to apply for a research internship in the US? I see that some application deadlines have already passed, such as AI2.
I think I can talk about my experience from the past 2 years as an applicant from Europe applying to the US. I would say, first of all, there are some companies that only hire people from the US, and you will not figure that out unless you hear from them directly. So just take that in mind, that you might get a rejection and it might have nothing to do with your profile in case you're from Europe. But regarding the timeline, I would say last year I got the internship very late, the offer. I think it was also had to do with the hiring freeze, but then positions started to open up at Amazon in February, and I think I got this offer in April or something. So that, yeah, I think it's not too late to apply now. I think that this is definitely a good time. I would say November, December would be great to apply, because then interviews can get scheduled in December or January. I would say if usually offers start to get out in January, February. So if you start applying in January, February, you might be a bit late. And most positions might be already gone. But...
Yeah, that's my experience too. I think the earliest you can apply is September, but yeah, I got offers for interview in December, January, maybe a bit later also. So yeah, AI too, I'm not sure exactly. I just know they get a lot of applications, so maybe they close early. But for sure there are other companies that still are open for internship.
Yeah, also it's around the year that some of the students already committed, some of them are still deciding. Some of the students will decide to join other opportunities, will make the previous opportunities open as well, right? So a lot of dynamics happening, which at least my students are telling me all this. So I know typically around this year, many are still looking.
Thank you. Okay, and there's another question, but it's very related to timing the market. So if there's maybe we can group it with that one. If there's an inflation of too many CS students, but again, we discussed that the trend is still positive and we shouldn't time the market. So maybe try not to worry about that. And again, the AI is moving fast, and who knows what's gonna happen in 1 year, 2 years. Maybe we're gonna have even more research, more opportunities. So I wouldn't look at it with a negative connotation. Okay, so the next question is, what is the interview pattern of general NLP related jobs, and how should one approach them? Maybe Andreas, if you know from your students or.
I think from what I hear, the interview process is very varied. It depends a lot from company to company. Yeah, I don't think it's a very general pattern. It's good to ask though for clarity, so you can prepare, because it's in everyone's interest that you're well prepared. It's in their interest too, so they will be very happy to tell you how, what to expect in the interview. So if you find that you don't, if you think you're not given enough information, ask. Like no harm, like it's going to be coding or theory, or like what's it going to be? Because there are many options. That's the thing, and I don't think there's a very standard pattern. Say.
And thank you so much. Yeah, I was trying to remember also my interviews. Yeah, most of them had at least one part of coding, but it wasn't necessarily an NLP coding. It was more something lit code, or something that just to show that you can code. And then NLP related was more about NLP theory or things you learn in the NLP courses. or talking about your research in the NLP area. Okay, nice. I see Zhijing is answering a lot of questions. I wonder if we overlap at some point. Let's see. Your last question. What is the best way to apply for an internship? Do we need a referral? Oh, I see it here. Yeah, okay, we're not there yet. We still have a few questions to ask in the panel. I see. So next question is, if not specified, would you recommend applying through the online application or also reaching out directly to potential advisors in companies and universities?
I think Zhijing has covered it well in her response. I wouldn't have something to add, but just to second that, to echo what's written, like, yeah, no harm in adding, writing emails directly, having someone who knows them to email about you. All of that can help, exactly because there's a lot of applicants, but, it's, yeah. But obviously, that's not something everybody has access to, but...
Also attend conferences. That's also one way.
Yeah, well,
I guess this is also why many of you guys were mentioning. After my first publication, I got exposed to conference and can go. But nowadays, many universities also have channels to sponsor students even without publication to join conferences as professional development, right? So talking to the real people in person will be the most direct way, if you have these opportunities, right? I know it's a privilege. Not every student has that.
Yeah, just to add on that, like, do not underestimate the potential of applying for ACL diversity and inclusion funding. I was one of the chairs for NLP last year at Abu Dhabi. Yeah, and I will, there was substantial help. I have to, I don't know what happens this year. And, maybe I'll do it again in the future, maybe not. But I'm sure good people are doing their work, and and there's a substantial amount of help on offer. Unfortunately, there were more requests usually than we can take, that can actually support. But still, there was a fair number of people that were supported. So, maybe you will be the next one, right? So if you can't, have good reasons, I don't think of it as something that, who knows what happens. No, there's actually a substantial amount of support, luckily. So do make, apply for it and hopefully make use of it.
Yeah, and if the conference is happening close to you, if I were students, I would even consider self-fund to attend a conference as well. If it's, let's say, you're already in California, in LA, an LP conference is just happening next to you, driving there, talk to people. It's always good.
I would like to add another way to apply for internships that helped me actually find my last one. And that is through look on LinkedIn and Twitter on positions, because there are many mentors who are posting that. I'm using it just as a search engine to see if there's an internship on a specific topic that I want to work on. Last year, Amazon did that a lot, and I reached out to many people. I didn't hear from most of them, but one I heard from is my current mentor, actually. And that helped me to get the position.
Was it like cold messaging people on LinkedIn, or was it part of your alumni network?
No, it was just it was a connection through someone else. So I didn't know this person. It was just a post that was liked by someone that I knew. And yeah, I was inclined for a return offer. So that made the interview process much easier. There was only the matching conversation, but that was not why I came in contact with this person. I just sent a cold message like, hey, I'm looking for an internship, and this topic interests me. So.
Yeah, I echo with this. I haven't personally tried LinkedIn, but it seems to be a hidden gem. One of my friends is actually starting her startup in California, and she's on the East Coast now. And then she just like vastly explored LinkedIn, and actually many people are willing to answer you. And like this mentorship culture is also prevalent in that sense. So maybe try LinkedIn.
Yeah, I also found my internship at Amazon on LinkedIn. So yeah, I can say from my experience that it works. Okay, we could move on to the next question. How can I find an internship that is more or less on the same thesis topic?
That's I think one of the points I always talk to my students, right? So if you are looking at your internship directions and you're looking at your thesis direction, somewhat they shouldn't go opposite, right? If they go opposite, then basically the internship are basically going to, how to say, slow down your thesis progress. In some sense, it's not preferred at the end. So, but regarding how to find internships that aligns well with your thesis topic, I don't know. I mean, you read papers, right? You read papers that relevant to what you are working on. So look at all these people from industry. Are they looking for internships? Are typically the best way to find groups that have similar interest. Of course, consult your PhD advisor. Lots of times people will say, hey, sometimes my advisor would like me to do or suggest me to do direction A, but the industry would like direction B. How should I, consolidate all these directions? I was saying, always, I still think your PhD advisor should be, if the advising mentor-mentee relationship is the right kind of relationship, should be the first person you go to and talk to when you're applying an internship. Talk to them like what topics, what benefit your thesis, your PhD career as well, and that they might suggest you names to approach, and having similar interest and in a similar sub-community. So that will help you find internship that aligns well with your thesis topic.
I was also thinking that maybe when a PhD student just enter the lab and try to brainstorm what they want to do for their PhD, perhaps the advisor meeting could also integrate in, like, do they want to get into industry afterwards? Given this, how to mingle both interests, like both find a novel idea and one that will be fun for industry. And that could be also for future tense as well. Like you spot something that current industry didn't discover, but it will be crucial. Let's say some of my previous mentee work on privacy preserving LLM when still nobody started to work on that. And then that find a nice fit both in research and in industry as well now.
Yeah, I want to add a couple of things to this. I agree with everything with the research so far. I want to add one thing is that if you're sometimes, say in the UK, in some universities, definitely you can extend your duration of your PhD, which might be desirable. In the case of the UK, that is because it's only 3 years officially, which is quite short. In other places, might not be the case, but you can extend it so that essentially you can think of it as an extension of the PhD. The other thing I would say is that check with the company if they're happy for you to use the work you do as part of your thesis. That might depend on, they might say things like, oh, it has to be published first, or maybe there's something else that needs to happen internally. Make sure that you're okay with that. It's rare to me. I've never had like, oh, you cannot use it, but there might be some restriction like, yeah, but we should publish it first, or it has to go through some internal things first, and then you can use it. That depending on your PhD timeline, that timeline might make it impossible to actually use it. But whereas the more interesting thing for me is that, and getting back to the question, for me, like when I discuss with my students what they want out of the internship, I think the first thing is that they should learn things. So one of the best things that has happened is the following. So a student of mine, where he was going for an internship, the internship was clear was not going to be part of his thesis because it was slightly different topic, but he was going to work with people that we both thought that would be a good idea because he would learn from them. Now, zoom forward, at the time when we agreed to that, we were doing a project which was going to be his final chapter for his thesis. We couldn't quite make progress, we were missing something, some knowledge, some experience, goes for the internship, comes back, then it happens because he actually learned things during the internship. He couldn't use the internship material, but he learned things during the internship because he worked with people that we knew he would learn from, things that he would learn from me. And then he was able to come back and finish the project, and that became his last chapter of his thesis. So that's actually, that for me, it's not like that you can predict all of this, but for me, it highlights the importance of choosing people that as mentors for your internship that you are going to learn from. That's the main thing you should aim for when you're looking for internships.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And yeah, I also have an experience where my internship wasn't very related to my thesis, but I really liked the subject, and it made me think of future research directions in that subject, like for things I want to explore outside of the thesis, like maybe in a postdoc or as a professor. So yeah, that can open new perspectives. But again, it depends on what you're looking for in the internship. If you really want to focus on your thesis, or if also, yeah, you can learn from other subjects. It can be a very good learning experience also. Okay, the next question will be, if the position I got is not research oriented, but SDE oriented for a certain product, should I decline it and spend the summer of my PhD still in my university?
I guess maybe many of Andreas' answer addresses that problem. So it's more about what you want and then the cosine similarity of this soft learning and hard learning with this experience.
Yeah, I agree. If you're more like industry oriented and you think you're gonna learn good skills with this internship, maybe go for it. Otherwise, if you prefer research, then research in the university could be a good choice.
Well, you can do the calculation, right? So if you do research during the summer, you can accelerate your PhD graduation, let's say 1 semester earlier. You could join a company 1 semester earlier later, right? So then doing the summer internship for SD to delay your PhD progress doesn't really sound a good deal to me.
Yeah, that's a good point also. Okay, a few more questions left, so we're right on time. Thank you so much again. It was very engaging. Okay, so what is the best way to apply for an internship? Do we need a referral?
I think we have answered this one. Let's move on to.
Yeah, we touched on this question, yeah. So okay, let's see the next one. Do university NLP groups also accept PhD internships?
I think at least in the UK we call them academic visitors. The big difference is that we don't pay. I mean, you're very welcome to come and work with us. But typically, I mean, I'm sure there will be things, there'll be some corner cases, but typically, we would pay. But you're very welcome to come work with us, write papers with us. It happens, right? That's just with us, like, during the universities. I mean, there's a matter of definition whether you consider internship as something paid for, as opposed to just a visit. I think there's a big difference there. I mean, there are other differences too, but okay, that's perhaps a crude way of putting it. But that's something that you probably find. So it depends, right? I mean, I said, if you remember, maybe you don't, but what I said just a minute ago was like, finding the people to learn from, right? If that's what you're looking for, and you don't need the money, well, maybe that's a good thing to do. Just maybe I would go to internship typically, but but that's a fine thing to do.
There are, I think the question is also related to undergraduate students, right? So many of the undergraduate students would like to do research, and some universities has programs. For example, our university has a program called Summer Undergraduate Research Internship, Zürich program. So basically trying to fund 20 to 25 undergrad students at their final year to do research at our university, especially in cybersecurity domains. So they have money, they have plenty of money to hire people. Yeah, so definitely, I mean, university, I mean, I think the true matter, I think also relates to other and like Andreas mentioning, the faculty's bandwidths are limited as well, right? So they need to mentor their own students. At the same time, internship will somewhat also split their attention as well. So it's truly up to who you want to work with and whether they have bandwidth to work with you during the summer.
Yeah, totally agree. Usually professors with extra bandwidth, they will list it on their website. And then if not, as everybody else is, then usually like if you're close to their citation network, then probably you could be a good fit. Don't hesitate to reach out. Another thing, like with regard to the payment and stuff, I just come across a framework about thinking of this. So during PhD, like sometimes we say like I think academia pays less than those of industry, or like, do you want to sacrifice some payment for something else, like aligns with your interest more? Then that's more about like, are you earning money, or are you investing in yourself? So when you're investing in yourself, you're actually like, you receive all the skill sets and then all the learnings. The reason why academia can still attract so many talented people is that these things are equivalent to, or even more than the money. So people love here. So yeah, but happy for other thoughts as well. Just think of the investment problem in addition.
I totally agree with you, right, man? But money-wise, if you think about it, right? I was talking to my students, how much you got from an internship. I don't know, maybe different positions have different pay scales. Typically 10K per month, like 15K per month. I don't know, maybe Sarah has good comments on that. But if you work in a university during summertime, you got 40 hours, double pay, it's typically around 4K to 5K. Then considering, you don't need to relocate, you don't need to, all the living cost, you may not get that much less if you work and doing research at your university research labs as well, right? So I don't think like this is truly a big difference over there.
I can comment on that. I think for me as a PhD student in Europe, doing an internship in the US, there is a big difference because I think, yeah, at least there's also a difference between doing an internship in Europe versus the US, salary wise. In the US, it's much higher. I think the taxes are lower. So yes, the 10K estimate that you made is correct for US internships, but that's not what we get in Europe. And compared to our PhD salaries in Europe, that's also much higher.
Okay, thank you so much. We have a few more questions that I see here. Maybe very short answers because we're almost on time. So one question, would it be wise to keep teaching experience on the CV when applying for internships or industry job? I remember, so I have two types of CV, one for industry and one for academia. And in the industry one, I put the industry experience first, and it's much shorter than the academia one. I know they prefer that. And I try to take out maybe courses, like extracurricular things I did that improve my teaching and focus more on the coding skills or yeah, the internships I did. So yeah, definitely changing the CV, I think, helps to personalize it for industry and for academia. And maybe another question, what are the benefits, drawbacks of interning with the same team more than once? Again, if that team was really good and you learn a lot from them and you feel like, yeah, they're really beneficial for your success, I would continue with them, especially that I think you also can have progress much faster if you already know each other, you know, your work style, so things can move much faster. But if you want to explore new themes, that's also a good option. Like internships are good for that. So depends on you and on your experience. Okay, we're right on time. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone. We had a lot of engagement. Yeah, thank you so much. Also in the chat, we have answers from Zhijing and yeah, everyone giving advice and yeah.
Yes. Thank you all. I enjoyed answering questions. Hope to see you at another conference, at the conference some point.
Yes.
Yeah.
You all around
Thank
the
you,
world.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Feel
you.
free to say hi in conferences as well. I will be in New Rips very soon. And happy Thanksgiving to the people in US.
Indeed.
Thank you, and thanks again from our
Thank you.
mentors.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.